Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a nice little small slate. It's a 5-game Major League Baseball slate for you. Before I get started, you can guys smash that like and subscribe button. It really helps the channel a lot. Really do appreciate it. For some reason, the data for potential usage is not available this morning. I'm not sure why. But anyway, let's look at the weather. It looks like the weather's going to be really good today for baseball. I think there's going to be a lot of games with a lot of potential uh, home runs and things. So I think even though it's a small slate, it should be a exciting one. I do think though that we have three teams that we can target: the Yankees, Washington, and Cleveland. Though you will note that I have a Seattle player in my slate here, as they are okay as well. So let's look at our pitchers first. For our pitching today, Miller is going to be the top overall play for Seattle against Texas. Now Texas has ups and downs, but they've been inconsistent all season long, and they are out of the race. So I think that he has some potential here, though he did give up a couple of home runs to them the first time he pitched against them. However, he's been solid enough lately. He's got high upside, and he's got one of the better strikeout rates on the slate. I will note that nobody really has great strikeout stuff on the slate, so to keep that in mind. Looking at Ryan Peapot, he also looks somewhat interesting today, though he does have a tougher matchup against Cleveland. He is an extreme GPP play only. The strikeout stuff is good enough to be viable, but he's a little high risk, high reward. Though he did have a solid game against Cleveland the first time he pitched against them, though he only had 4 strikeouts in that game, and I look for that to be somewhat similar today. If we look at Cortez, Montas, Williams, and Parker, all 4 of those guys are kind of boomer bust today. They have potential, but they're in tough matchups. If I had to pick one of them, I would probably go with Parker simply because he's got the easiest matchup against Miami, though I do like some Miami bats, so that definitely makes it not ideal either. As for we also don't know who is pitching for Texas yet, but I don't think I'm going to use who that is regardless. So let's look at our catchers. Austin Wells is the top play for me. He looks like he's in a really solid spot here. He is a core play as well for me. Even though there's some other guys at this position that look decent, he's probably one of the better value options on the slate, so he's definitely a good look. Kyle Raleigh is a good option as well for Seattle. He has home run or best upside, though he's been really hitting the ball better lately, so he's definitely somebody I would consider here. And then also Keibert Ruiz for Washington. He's got a favorable matchup against a young pitcher, and so I look for him to have a potentially solid and really good game here. Looking at first baseman, Josh Naylor is the top overall play at this position. He's been fantastic this season, and he's had some really good games lately. I do think he has home run upside today, so he's definitely worth a look from that perspective. Looking at Jake Berger from Miami, he's kind of a one-off for Miami that has some home run upside today, so he's definitely worth a look, though he has struggled some lately. And then Luke Raley also looks very interesting for Seattle. Seattle does look pretty solid today from a stackability, even though they're probably the 4th or 5th best team on the slate. He has had some struggles through the season, but he's been hitting the ball very well lately, so he's definitely a good option. Looking at second base, I really thought about making Jimenez a core play, but honestly, his home run potential is a little bit too low for that. And there's a couple other good options at this position as well, but he does jump off the page with really good hitting metrics on this slate. Luis Garcia Jr. is a good one-off for Washington, though he is a little bit pricey. I don't really love his price, and he has been inconsistent lately, but he is capable of a solid game here as well. And then Bryce Terang from Milwaukee has been a pretty decent hitter as of at least before the last 10 or so games. He had some good times throughout the season, so the metrics here are good for him, though he's a little bit overpriced as well. So I don't love him, but he is definitely a capable option on the slate. Looking at third base, Jazz Chisholm Jr. has been phenomenal since he joined the Yankees, and he looks like he's in a solid position with home run upside today. Jose Ramirez is way pricey, but his price is actually coming down a little bit, which is nice, and so he definitely draws some potential today with the home run upside. I also like Jake Berger here at this position, and then Connor Norby for Miami as well. Does look pretty interesting here. He has been fantastic in his games with his home run potential, but he is a little bit robust in that perspective, so to keep that in mind. But he's capable of a big game here. Looking at the shortstops, we do like CJ Abrams. He's very expensive today. He's not a must-play because he's kind of been robust, but he's had some really good games lately with home runs. Trevor Story is in play today. Now, he hadn't hit a home run or anything yet this season, and he has been on our watch list a few times since he's been back from injury. He does look solid today, and he's nice and cheap. And then Xavier Edwards is kind of overpriced, but he does have good hitting metrics today, so he's definitely worth a look as well. Looking at outfielders, Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Julio Rodriguez, and Tyler O'Neill are top 4 plays. With Julio Rodriguez being sub $5,000, that makes him a core play for me here in the outfield, and he's been solid against Texas this season. He also has some pretty good home run upside today. As for other options, you could look at Josh Lowe for Tampa Bay, James Wood for Washington. A little bit overpriced, though. Chourio is probably somebody I'm going to try to roster because of his price point here with how good he's been hitting the ball. And Jason Dominguez for the Yankees. He hasn't done anything yet in the first 3 games, really. He had 1 hit and a stolen base in the second game. If he does draw the start today, he'd be somebody that would be very interesting to put in your lineup. Some contrarian options at this position: Stephen Kwan, Giancarlo Stanton, Luke Raley, Mike Yastrzemski for the outfielders. So with that said, guys, thank you